the end, the anticipated end, when and if the United States resolves its role in these two wars against Russia and against Iran, what does the world look like, do you think?
All right, guys, welcome to Tommy's Take. Please, first of all, thank you for being here with me, and please ask you to subscribe to the channel, please. It really helps the channel grow. And like the video, share, and please comment down below. Let's go ahead and get into this clip from Tucker Carlson as he interviews a Harvard professor.
I think it looks like a substantially more dangerous world, actually, than we've seen for, say, most of
after the wars.
Yeah, after the wars. Well, it's going to leave the world in a I think, a more precarious condition, and for sort of larger, more enduring reasons than just these conflicts. I mean, the relationship with Russia is not going to improve for a while, even if the war formally comes to an end. There's lots of suspiciousness on both sides now, so that's going to be a problem. China is going to continue to improve its military power. It's going to continue to grow economically. It's going to continue to challenge the United States and others for influence around the world. So that's going to be a source of tension. We have, I think, in the world today, you're seeing other powers, lesser powers being more active and not always constructively. Think of the role that the UAE has played in the civil war in Sudan. So they're involved in fueling conflicts in a variety of other places. So you're going to see a tripolar world with Russia, China, the United States as the three main powers, with some unresolved tensions among them, continued, I think, concerns about what's going on in Asia and what China's ambitions might be there. And in a situation where no one really trusts America's judgment anymore. And that's, I think, an artifact of the war, especially the war in Iran. Let me point to one other thing that I think people sometimes forget about, and that's what we've seen, I think, a pretty dramatic erosion in the normative environment surrounding the use of force. And I'm a good realist, so I don't think norms in international law are everything, but they're not irrelevant. So one of the things we've seen is essentially a collapse of the norm against assassination. For a long time in world history, governments didn't try to assassinate each other. Leaders of other countries didn't try and kill each other in conflicts. This was a common practice 500 years ago, and it gradually fell from favor, and a norm emerged against it. You can understand why. It was in everybody's self-interest. If you were a king, if you were a prime minister, not to be trying to kill each other. Moreover, great powers like this norm because it meant that conflicts would be decided on the battlefield, where they had all the soldiers and all the wealth and could win. Assassination is a tool of weaker powers.
Right. Asymmetrical, of course.
Right. And beginning at the end of World War II, when the Allies began to hold leaders accountable, Nuremberg trials, the Tokyo War Crimes trials, this idea that what you did as a statesman was sort of separate began to erode. Once that began to erode, then going after a leader, going after Muammar Gaddafi, going after Saddam Hussein, begins to look morally preferable. Why not just take out this troublesome leader as opposed to
spare the population?
Yeah, spare the population. You could make this argument. Of course, this is a very dangerous road to go down because now it's becoming a much more common practice. Look at what the United States and Israel do at the beginning of the Iran war. They take out all of Iran's senior leaders. There's at least two problems here. First of all, you don't know who's going to replace them. And of course, we're now having trouble with a more hardline faction in Iran. It also erodes any possibility of trust. I mean, how can you sit down and negotiate a peace agreement with a regime that has killed your senior leaders and might do something again subsequently? And then finally, as that norm begins to erode, others are going to use it too. Others will start using similar tactics, and leaders, including American presidents, are going to have to worry much more about this than they did necessarily in the past. All right, you put all of those things together, continued great power competition, eroding norms against the use of violence in a variety of different ways. And I think you end up with a much more dangerous world. And I think, unfortunately, the world agrees with that, because if you look at the last 20 years or so, in constant dollars, defense expenditures have basically doubled in the world of the last 20 years, because
Not just in the U.S.
not just in the United States. You see this happening in Asia. You see this happening in Europe now, belatedly, but finally happening. And I think that's all evidence that around the world, people anticipate a much less secure environment than the one we've had.
Not what we were promised. We were promised by certain factions in American politics peace based on global trade. Globalizing the economy was supposed to guarantee stability because you don't go to war with your trading partners. That's what they told us.
Right. And I should have mentioned that. I mean, the other thing that's happening is we're seeing the onset of not an end to global trade, not even a complete end to globalization, but certainly a retreat back from it, raising of trade barriers, increased protectionism, particularly in high technology, things like that. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. You're going to see a much more competitive economic environment, and what has been called weaponized interdependence, people trying to gain political advantage by using others' vulnerabilities or others' dependence, the way the United States has weaponized the role of the dollar in the international financial system, imposing sanctions, the way Iran has weaponized everyone's dependence on the Strait of Hormuz to advance political agendas. So all of that's going to contribute.
But can we put those cliches to bed, that democracies don't go to war against their neighbors, that trading partners don't have wars? Like, that's just none of that's true.
Well, you want to be careful here. There is some evidence that democracies are less likely to fight each other. It's soft evidence. I wouldn't want to base my entire foreign policy around that assumption. But you don't want to completely throw it out. And secondly, again, big macro studies will show you that, in fact, high levels of economic interdependence do make international conflict between the partners less likely. There's a statistical relationship there. It is not, however, an absolute guarantee. The fact that you have an extensive economic relationship with someone doesn't mean you won't fight them. It just makes it somewhat less likely. Also, you can make the reverse argument, arguably even more powerfully. It's not so much that interdependence causes peace. It's rather that peace causes interdependence.
Yes, exactly.
When you have a stable political environment.
Thank you for saying that.
No, when you have a stable political environment, people don't think war is very likely.
That's right.
Then they're willing to trade with someone else much more readily. They're willing to invest in a foreign economy without worrying that somehow that's going to get nationalized or seized because a conflict emerges. And once people begin to see that conflict is likely, and I'm talking about investors here, they quite naturally begin to pull back, and governments encourage them to pull back because they're worried about what the balance of power is going to be, et cetera. So the optimism of the, say, early 1990s that we're going to head into this wonderful, Fukuyama and Friedman-esque world of globalization and peace and harmony, there was a grain of truth in that. If the world had remained peaceful and tranquil, then interdependence looks more attractive. But once the world starts to look more dangerous, people begin to worry more about security than they do about wealth.
All right. So that was Professor from Harvard, and he said some interesting things that the world the United States has been in Ukraine, I believe, since 2014, I believe. Well, I mean, Ukraine has been fighting Russia since 2014, I believe, with the aid and assistance of the United States weaponry, and so forth. And then, of course, the Iran war. Now, these are two major wars that the United States is currently involved in. And what he's essentially saying is that, look, if you just look at the Iran war, how leaders are being assassinated, and now it's become the norm. Maduro was taken out, right? Just went into Venezuela, assassinated the country, and just went in and took the president. That's a violation of international law. And the United States just just did whatever they wanted to do. They do whatever they want to do, unfortunately. And of course, what the war in between Ukraine and Russia is doing, causing a lot of instability over there in Eastern Europe. And it's just, I agree with what the professor is saying, that you're really disrupting the economic order of the world. And we see that clearly with what's happening with the Strait of Hormuz. But now it's like, it was supposed to be, like Tucker said, that if you're trading with a country, you shouldn't go to war with that country, right? Yeah, good trade, good relations with that country. You work things out, especially after all these wars of the 20th century. You think we would have learned something, that there's no benefit. There's no real benefit to war. It just costs too much in so many different ways. So, are we going to see a new world order where the security of the state is more fragile, right? Is not like what it used to be, where your president could just be assassinated so easily, where borders are no longer secure, no longer recognized. Like, look what Israel is doing in southern Lebanon, right? Look what Israel is doing, continuing to expand its borders southward into Gaza, right? So yeah, guys, tell me what you think about what the professor was discussing here. Do you believe that after these two wars are over, that the world will be a more dangerous place? Thank you guys for watching the video. Tommy's Take. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.